The day has finally come where I get to open all of the welding equipment that I've had sitting around for a while. Basically, I'm going to see if you can build a shop with Harbor Freight. This is actually a very complete but very inexpensive, brand new welding setup. This should be enough to get you started. That's the idea here is, can you build a business off of Harbor Freight welding equipment? I had to be very mindful of my money. I definitely don't have a lot. I did not have much to start with. I have a lot of really exciting projects, starting with weld table. Obviously, that is the next step in any progression. If you guys are interested in that, you need to hit the subscribe button and the notifications so you know when I have done these projects and they come out. So without further ado, I kind of want to crack into this and just show you my first impressions. Let's start with the welder, see what's inside there, and we'll just kind of work our way down. Before I jump into this, I just wanted to go over why I bought this one here. I needed something that would match my needs as far as grow with my process, and because I don't have a shop, or I didn't have a shop when I bought this, I didn't know exactly what kind of work I was going to be doing. I needed a lot of options, so this is 120 and also 240, so I'll be able to take it places if I need to and just plug it into the wall. It gives me the option to just do flux core right now, which is great because I don't have any gas bottles. Then obviously the MIG TIG gun, so I can work my way and practice a little bit more TIG, and then the spool gun, which I have some aluminum projects that I'd really like to do, and just big aluminum projects in my mind are just kind of not worth it if you don't have spool guns. So that's why I did this. Also, I really like the fact that these are all available at Harbor Freight. I mean, I know that might be a little worrisome as far as quality, but there's only one way to find out. I haven't done this before. Hopefully, if you watch the series, you're going to see how this performs. I like the fact that I can just go to Harbor Freight. They're all over the place and I can get replacement parts. I can buy these add-ons and we'll just see how this goes. So let's see what's in the box. Congratulations. Let's see what this is. Quick start guide. This is what the quick start guide looks like. Just some advertisement telling you what kind of accessories that they've got on really thick paper. Owner's manual and safety instructions, ground clamp cable, and the electrode holder. Probably should do this on the ground. This has got the solid core, flux core, gas hose, MIG gun accessories, 240 volt input power cord, 120 volt input power cord, argon CO2 regulator, Vulcan sheet metal gauge, knurled groove drive roll. So looks like that's all basically the components, and here's the actual machine. I gotta put this on the ground because I don't want to throw out my back. Okay, there it is. This is the machine. There it is. Says on the box, this thing weighs 49 pounds. I don't know if that's just the machine. And I will tell you, this is very manageable. You're gonna be able to carry this up flight of stairs. I mean, you're not gonna wanna do that all day, but you can pick it up. Very first thing out of the box, I would just say, you just notice these are plastic. These are metal. Okay, nothing in here. All the components are gonna be in here. Here is your ground clamp and cable. It is pretty nice. It's okay. The actual contact points look pretty solid as far as beefiness. Just the actual body itself, this metal, I mean, it's just pretty thin. You know, it's not the thickest material you've ever seen. It'll work. I mean, this will definitely do fine. These contacts are more than sufficient. The spring, just fine. Absolutely no reason this won't be, I would say, more than sufficient. This is probably a 10-foot long cable. Onto the stick electrode holder. Same gauge wire. Looks like same connection as the ground clamp. Probably same length. Seems to be of fine quality. This is, looks like maybe pot metal. Doesn't really feel like plastic. Not blown away by the overbuilt quality of it. And this is not the tool I'm going to be using most. Absolutely can't imagine why it won't work. All right, let's see what the gun looks like and some consumables. Okay, in here we've got many boxes. And this is what it's going to look like coming out of the box. There we go. Actually stacked pretty nice. Well done. So you got the regulator. Your gauges, they look fine. Fine quality. They are. They're your gauges. Pretty good. This you can't really slough at. OmniPro, this is the wire. We've got solid wire and flux core and the hose. We got 030 flux core wire, and here's your 030 solid wire. Gas line, let's see how long this gas line is. This is gonna be like a 6-foot gas line. All right, here's the gun and gun accessories, the power cords, sheet metal gauge, and the drive roll. Let's start with the plugs. It's not super long, I'll tell you that. Probably another 10 foot. This is probably 6-ish. Yeah, probably 10 foot. This is the 120 power cable. I'm gonna guess it's the same length as the 240. Same length, 10 feet, probably. This drive wheel does look, yeah, this is quality. This is definitely quality. Machining is good. Sometimes that can be a bit iffy. As a machinist, I can attest there's no major burrs. The knurls, all the grooves have lined up well. This is precise. This should, I would imagine, not give you any issues, which this can be some issues with this can be problems with some cheaper welders, is these drive wheels are just kind of a joke. All right, here is your gun. First thing that I'm gonna notice right here, not a big whip or whatever you want to call it. Like this is not a lot of working space. This is maybe 10 feet. This will work, but I'm just gonna tell you, if you do anything big, you're gonna need a cart. You're gonna need to move your welder a lot if you're gonna use this thing. This is not that long. I get this gun, decent size. It's not massive. You could probably use it quite a bit. You can see it comes with a tip and already a nozzle. It comes with 2 more of these, 2 more tips and another nozzle. Here's the sheet metal gauge. Huh, this one's actually pretty nice. Fresh off the cutter though. Definitely didn't get deburred. There it is. So you've got your machine, your gun, and your 2 power cords, gas line, regulators, regulator connector, extra tips, drive wheel, gauge, sheet metal gauge, and 2 2-pound spools of flux core and solid wire, 030, quick guide, owner's manual. That's everything you get in here. I would say for the price, this is exactly what you should expect. I think this thing is going to be really capable, and I think it's going to pump out some awesome welds. Might as well see what the rest of this looks like. Here we've got Vulcan's top-end welding hood. New filter technology allows truer colored light through the lens, improved visibility in active and passive state, clear, more natural view, clear view of puddle edge. So basically, looks like it's got some sort of cool technology that allows you to see better. This is not a cheap welding hood. This is a very nice welding hood, as a matter of fact. Let's open this up and see how it looks. Your replacement shields for inner and exterior. First impressions right off the bat is this is pretty light. I like how flexible this is. Wow, this is impressive. These are all really flexible. Wow, I'm excited about that. I obviously have not held nice welding hoods before. These are very very soft and very flexible. You have 4 contact points. You've got this part on the forehead, which already comes with a really substantial pad sweatband. On the back here, you have a large contact area that's padded with the nice adjustments, which are quick and sound sturdy. But this looks like you could wear this all day pretty comfortably. It's got the pads wrap around the sides here, comes all the way through. So it comes all the way from the front around to the sides up to the top. So this is a very large band. Pretty comfortable, especially with a hat on. You're getting your money's worth on this thing. Oh, I just saw this too. The back articulates. That's really nice. So it can really kind of pivot in any direction. This is a nice welding helmet. I'm glad that I went with the more expensive one. This will be a joy to use. Okay, on to the next. Let's just go to the TIG. Here we are. Here is the TIG setup. We've got the TIG torch here and the TIG pedal. Let's just see what these look like. Owner's manual. You got your connections. Okay, here's your consumables. I would imagine this is the same thing that's going to come right off the shelf at Harbor Freight. Okay, I see. There are 4 tungstens in here. 4 of the collets and different nozzle sizes. Okay, so you got 4 of everything in here. You got your 2 different connectors here. It just depends on what machine you're using. You have your 2 different gas connectors. Here's the pedal. This is aggressive. You're not going to slip off of that. It says it's got its removable keel plate. And I think this one says 25-foot cable. Yeah. Let's talk about abrasives for a minute. These are all Warrior brand from Harbor Freight, and I've used them all before. They will suffice. I cannot tell you I would recommend you using these things. Cutting discs in particular are just one of those consumables, one of those pieces of equipment that I would recommend you be very careful with. You buy very high quality. Make sure you do not use thin discs unless you need to, or, you know, obviously if you're very experienced and very capable, that's different, but do not start with thin discs. I think in the past, Harbor Freight, I think this brand used to not be reinforced. They are now. You can see that there's webbing inside, which helps it when they break, which inevitably, if you spend enough time with cutting wheels, they're gonna break. And they're deadly. Absolutely wear safety equipment, but I would encourage you to get as highest quality as you can. Their flap discs are, these are just 40 grit, just flap wheel discs. They're sandpaper. They're gonna work, but there's not a lot to them. They're pretty thin, pretty insignificant. They'll remove some material, but there's not gonna be a lot of life on these things. And then as far as the, just a grinding wheel. Concept of grinding wheel is if it's hard, I mean, it's going to be removed one way or another. So as far as there is material here, should grind just fine. Probably not the thickest one out there, but I don't use grinding wheels as much as I do flap wheels and cutting discs. So I bought this more to see in the future. And when you need to remove some material, this is the guy you want. You don't want to be burning up your flap wheels anyway. So there's your abrasives as far as what you need for sure. If you're gonna be doing any type of fabrication, these 2 right here, you're gonna need a flap wheel and a cutting disc. And with these 2 things, you could do probably most 60, 80% of any fab jobs out there that you're gonna come across in a job shop in the field. All right, next up are these wire brushes that I've got from Harbor Freight, and they come from their cups and wheels, and you've got this one that is already pretty fine and frayed, and then you've got this cup which is thick and spun together, and then on these wheels these are pretty thick, but as soon as you start using wire brushes like this, they basically turn into looking like that. Wire brushes are another one of those things that are just a little bit iffy, because regardless, the way that they lose life is they're gonna be throwing off their teeth, their bristles. So they end up everywhere. I have used quite a few wire brushes before, and oftentimes it's this style. I have used this particular cup on a few projects already, and it is not very well built. It has lost a crazy amount of bristles immediately. You definitely, when you're working with this stuff, you need really quality gear as far as thick clothing for protection anyway. But I would just say that I'm not impressed with the quality of these. They're gonna do the job, and if you need them in a pinch, they're absolutely gonna remove material. You're not gonna get a lot of life out of these things, and I prefer something that when it comes to something that's gonna spin as fast as these things do on the end of an angle grinder, I would encourage you to spend a good amount of money and get something that you're gonna really feel safe with, and something that you can really feel that once you get comfortable with it, you can just really put a lot of pressure on. So these are not really, I wouldn't recommend these as far as heavy pressure work. I don't have a angle grinder from Harbor Freight. I know that they're capable. I've used them before. If you buy the higher amperage ones, you don't want to just buy the low amperage ones if you're really going to be using these things. You want to be able to really lean on your angle grinder and really remove some material. So I would recommend just buying something upwards of 10 amps. 15 amps is awesome, but it's a little bit overkill. If you can, one little piece of advice on an angle grinder, if you can find one or throw out the money, a variable speed angle grinder will change your work immensely, makes things way more safe, and you can just get absolute beautiful grinds with them. So if you can afford it, go find yourself a variable speed angle grinder. Moving on to hand tools, let's discuss these BERGER brand, which I've never used before. We've got the welding pliers and the F clamps. First impressions are, with the F clamps, they're not as beefy as the ones that I've seen before, which is okay. As far as starting out, the way that we used to work for what I've done, these were the absolute workhorse backbone, took so much punishment, and I'm used to having them a little bit of a thicker spine. They will bend. I do know if you have them wide open like this and you really need to crank on something, these will have a tendency to bow. I have a feeling that these probably will too. Can tell, and I don't know if it's by design or not, but like this gap, this is definitely overbent here. This is overbent, but as far as just ability to crank on this thing, getting it on there, I mean, it's gonna keep whatever you need to keep pretty tight, up to 1,600 pounds. So I am excited to see how these work. I think they should be fine. Can't imagine why they wouldn't be. Pretty simple structure. Moving on to the drop forged pliers. It's not really a lot that goes into pliers like this, other than are they the right size? And if it fits into the nozzle, and that's what I mainly wanted these things for, is getting slag off. Because I know I'm gonna be starting out with flux core, just because I have it available. And I think it's just one of those things where learn the whole gambit of an industry. These are not a necessity, but definitely nice to have. So, nice, there's no flex this way. Nice springy, looks like it's been oiled. Definitely has been oiled. Sharp edges, definitely wasn't really knocked down, wasn't deburred, but looks like it would do the job without question. Again, another simple tool, but good to have around. You can smack stuff with it. This is to get into your nozzle and clean out your slag. This here is for changing your tips, grabbing your tips and taking them off. You can cut your wire right here, and then down here is for changing your nozzles. That is what welding pliers look like. Moving on to the BREMEN 11-inch C-clamp locking pliers. Next to the F-clamps, these are the work pony. Not the workhorse, but the little guy. They have a lifetime guarantee, which is one of my favorite things about a lot of the stuff they sell at Harbor Freight. They seem pretty burly. I've got this one out, and the main thing with these clamps, I don't really have much out, but one of the problems with cheap pliers like this is oftentimes, if these aren't built well, and I can just tell you right now, it looks like this is 3/8 of an inch thick, and these rivets are pretty freaking burly, and this is quite the drive nut. Here's a way you try to do it, like, and there's also a way to have a competition with your friends to see who has a stronger grip, but you get this thing and just squeeze it as tight as you can and see if it stays straight, and that's pretty freaking good. Can you move it around? That's kind of the other thing. Can you move it? And I'm not being able to move it. So as far as I'm concerned with this simple test, this is passes initial inspection. So another good purchase. I have confidence that this will do its job. Next on the agenda is something you just need to mark with. And here's just the soapstone. This was very inexpensive. It's worth the price just to have a pack of soapstone around. Basically, the whole point of this is just basically so your soapstone doesn't break. It's good to have these around. It helps you write on oily metal, and I mean, yeah, you could tell that these are cheap. These are just stamped. The, you know, tolerances aren't great, but it'll hold soapstone, keep them from being broken, which really isn't that big of a deal, but I was looking for an excuse to spend some more money, so I got soapstone. Here is the Harbor Freight leather welding package that you can get, and it comes with this apron, which honestly, I don't really get. It's huge. It's way too large for me. I mean, I did get the large size. I'm not a huge person, but I have large hands, so I needed it for the gloves. But this apron is just ridiculously, obscenely large. Like, you can't even use the pockets if the neck was all the way up. And not only that, I don't know many welders that use aprons anyway. They either have a jacket and chaps, or something like that, just double kneed Carhartts, whatever it is. But it also comes with this holster, which I think is supposed to hold your MIG gun, which again, never seen anybody that would ever use something like that. But these gloves are not too bad. They're just your typical kind of long cuffed welding gloves. They're fine. They're not anything special. They've got this liner inside because I think this leather is just pretty thin, and they're gonna get you through, but I wouldn't count on these things lasting you for a long time. But to start with, I would suggest just go ahead and get yourself a nice pair of leather gloves. Don't worry about the leathers unless you don't have anything else. If you don't have anything to protect yourself from grinding dust or anything like that, catching yourself on fire, get something like that, but you're gonna be better off with some canvas or some leather, Carhartt, anything like that. Last but not least are the hammers. Quick test. Yeah, look, same to hammer. Dead blows are an excellent tool for any shop. If you're not familiar with what a dead blow is, you hear this? They have material inside, so when you smack something, it doesn't reverberate, it doesn't bounce off. All of the force, once it hits, all of the sand or whatever is inside gets in there and hits it again. So all of the force is directed through. Very, very useful tools when it comes to setting steel after you weld it. It likes to move, smacking it back into place. With the plastic, it won't dent any of your metal, so your finishes will be fine. They've got pretty high resistance to heat. So you're gonna melt them a little bit, but it's not gonna mar things up. It's not going to smear. The other thing that is great about these is, again, Pittsburgh, they've got lifetime warranty. So if these break, when these break, because it doesn't really matter how good of quality anything is. If you're gonna use this in a fab shop and you're going to use this on a regular basis, doesn't matter, after 20 years, this plastic is gonna crack. So cool thing is, Harbor Freight, I think I've got faith they're gonna be around for a while. So you walk in with a broken one of these and it is just a, excuse me, broke one of those, and they'll be like, yeah, go ahead and get one in the back. This is a little convincer. I didn't wanna buy a bunch of different hammers, but kind of the same thing. Sometimes you do need to mar steel. Sometimes you do need to be able to smack it a little bit harder. And you need some hard face. Quick test, let's see. Yeah? They seem to be working. So first test for the Harbor Freight hammer seems to be good. I guess I have a lifetime to see if they break, and if they do, I'll get a new one. That's it as far as everything that you need just from the welding section of Harbor Freight. To get started, of course, there's a few other tools that you're gonna need. One of the major ones is a drill, and you gotta be able to poke holes because that's a lot of fabrication. So either a hand drill or a drill press, but anything to start out with that you can drill holes. If you can cut metal, if you can drill holes and you can weld it back together, you can fab. I have every intentions of showing you how you can actually build a shop like this. Have every intentions of putting these things through the ringer and building some amazing projects. So if you're interested in that, hit the subscribe button and the notifications so you get to watch the journey of building this shop and seeing how you can use inexpensive tools to build very cool projects. So, all right guys, thanks for your time and I will see you in the next video. Couple tips as far as money on buying this equipment. These Vulcan products are not good for just your normal Harbor Freight in-store coupons. But if you just Google real quick Vulcan coupons, you will see a bunch of these things that are 20% off. You can only use them once per purchase. You know, I just went in a bunch of different times, bought the accessories. I don't think that the 20% off is good on the welder, but it is good on accessories. So go ahead and do that. Also, if you're interested and considering purchasing a lot of tools from Harbor Freight, I would look into their credit card. I've looked into this a bit. And I know credit cards can be one of those scary things, but if you just have a good understanding of finance, this credit card is actually a really amazing deal. Depending on how much money you spend, you can get 0% financing over, I think it's up to 2 years on these really large purchases with equal payments. And that's really a fantastic opportunity to go just get these large chunk payments. It's basically a business loan for interest free if you can pay it over 2 years, and you should be able to with this equipment. So I would also encourage you to look into that. Best of luck if you decide to do this.